Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Autistic Tidbits and Tangents podcast. I am one of our three hosts, Kara Dymond. I am an autistic teacher, university lecturer, author, presenter, blah, 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 from Toronto, Canada.
I am Maja Toudal. I'm an autistic psychologist and author and mother and a little bit of this and that.
Incredible human being.
Totally. Thank you. I'm based in Denmark and I'm a nerd. That's me.
Oh, forgot that one. Me too.
How do I follow this? Hi, I'm Bruce Petherick. I'm an autistic musician and autistic advocate for Autism Canada. I am autistic, parent of, I think I can officially say I discovered this week that my eldest, who doesn't speak to me, is doing work in disability studies as part of their master's PhD. So I'm going to assume that they have embraced their neurodivergence, which is completely obvious to anybody. And of course, my two younger kids, both autistic and ADHD and general anxiety. So I'm a very neurospicy family. We have a very neurospicy family.
And you're a composer and also an incredible human being. Anyway.
Oh, and I, of course, live in the greatest place in the world, also known as Vancouver.
Yes. I thought the greatest place in the world was Denmark. Welcome to Autistic Tidbits and Tangents.
Candid conversations between autistic off-hour professionals.
With lots of tangents in different accents.
Cool.
Trigger warnings for the short episode of Random Stupidity is some swear words, and we discuss our zombie apocalypse plans.
Spiders and war as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Come on, Kara. Come on. Center of the universe,
I'm
Toronto.
not that patriotic about my my hometown. Although I do live like close to the woods. You can kind of see over here. That is pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
We have woods as well. But I'm going to defer because your woods are in your house, where I have to walk at least like a minute to get to mine. So
I just have to like somersault down the garden slope, and I'm in the woods. So a coyote came up on the lawn a couple of weeks ago. I was just watching, like right beside the window, peed on the tree, and then ran back into the woods.
Actually, this is amusing. Because I'm originally from Australia, people sort of say, "Oh, do kangaroos go down the main street?" And of course, in the main cities, they don't. Except it did happen in Melbourne once in a really weird way. Anyway, but I think people don't realize the coyote. Like, we have hawks and eagles in the backyard. Coyotes, we have deer 5 minutes away. Yes. There are bear sightings both where I used to live and not now. And it's just, this is part of Canadian metropolitan existence.
It is. I mean, I'm not metropolitan anymore, and there was a bear sighting on the trails right behind my house in January. But more to be expected here than in Vancouver. You would think.
See, this is so foreign to me because Denmark is, first of all, completely flat.
Yeah.
We have no real nature to speak of. We have some nice, quaint little woods. It's fine. And we have absolutely zero dangerous animals. There have been some wolf spottings, like, in the last couple of years. So we have, like, one small pack of wolves.
Yeah.
And their name Roger, Steve.
Well, actually, no, because they're running around Jutland, which is it's the largest, like, it's a half island. Everywhere else in Denmark is an island. It's a bunch of small islands. But they're running around Jutland, which means they trekked up from Germany. And we have a lot of farmland in Jutland. So the farmers are like, can we shoot them? And everyone is like, no, we have wolves. We haven't had wolves for like hundreds of years, guys. And the farmers are like, yeah, they're eating our chickens. Can we shoot them?
Oh, poor chickens. Yeah. Wow.
That's it. We may get to talk about that aspect in sort of later in a tangent, but we have to recognize farmers who are growing food for us, those animals that we think are wonderful and wild, like they do destroy the crop, and it's like, okay, where is there is a calculation involved in that. Now, I think I remember this pack of wolves because I think it made the news a year or so ago about this, like the first pack of wolves for hundreds of years. And it's like, okay, we're not going to shoot them. But I've got farm. My uncle was a farmer, and he had to regularly shoot animals on his farm. And of course, this is Australia, where that's a little. They're kind of rabid and things, but it's like, well, I don't want to shoot anything. I really don't. But I also understand I need food.
Yeah. And wolves need food.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I saw a huntsman spider and I had a gun, that would be my option.
I can't kill things. I can run away. I can try to capture them and take them outside.
I mean, okay, I'm not a fan of spiders. I'm much less phobic than I have been.
Yeah.
I can actually be in the room with a spider now. But
yes, we talked about that.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm shocked. Like, where did my phobia go? It's amazing. But I think if I saw one that sort of size, like poison is just not going to cut it. And if I don't want to burn down my house because I need a house.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
I've had to. So my partner.
I know they're not dangerous.
My partner's really scared of spiders, so I'm the one that has to get the cup and put it over and get some cardboard or something underneath.
Do that with a huntsman.
I once, so I've done this multiple times, so I'm getting better at that. But one time I did. I have terrible proprioception, body and space. I definitely smashed the cup on the spider despite trying not to, and I still feel terrible for the way that spider's life ended.
It's like, why don't they just stay still when we're trying to capture them like that?
I know, right?
And I was going to ask Maya, where do you think that phobia comes from? But that's one of those. I don't want that's a question that really probably doesn't have an answer.
No, it does. It does.
It does.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So it's a combination of some specific experiences and sensory, like, I don't want to call it overload, but like there are certain sensory experiences that are just, I can't. And so I've, as a child, had a bunch of experiences where I've suddenly felt something on my arm and looked down to see a spider crawling up towards my face. And it keeps happening to me. I swear. It's like,
I've had it happen like twice myself, and so it's bringing back bad memories.
Like it's happened a bunch of times when I was a kid, and it's happened a bunch of times when I was an adult too.
Yeah.
It just keeps happening, and they're not like, okay, so Denmark doesn't have huge spiders, but they're not tiny. Like they're the biggest spiders that I see around my house are probably the size of my palm, which is way too big for me. But like the sensation of those legs on my skin, like I absolutely cannot. And that kind of over time developed into a phobia where, and then there's the other aspect of spiders, which is that even if I've spotted one, if I go about my business and I look back, it's not going to be where I left it.
Yeah, it's the movement.
It's going to have gone somewhere, and now I don't know where it is. Yeah. And that's a problem.
Yeah, this is our longest intro ever.
They always come back for me. I swear they are hunting me.
One time I was on vacation with my family, and I was staying in a basement room of this house that we rented. And I was just like getting into bed. So I'd lie down and I pulled up the covers and the spider was on the top of the covers.
No.
I screamed and like threw the covers, and then I didn't find the spider again. And it was like, I couldn't sleep that night.
Yeah. Things like that. It's things like that. I can't with spiders.
My heart is racing thinking about it.
I will honestly, I will take a mouse or a rat over a spider any day.
Yeah, mice are cute.
I absolutely will. And I know that a lot of people would disagree with me on that, especially in a country like Denmark where like we do not have anything either poisonous or venomous in this country. We really don't. We also don't have any weather, by the way. So if you don't want earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, things like that, Denmark's a really fucking safe place to be.
Huh.
I don't envy the rest of the world. Like, I can't imagine going to live somewhere with earthquakes or tornadoes. I'm like, why do people live there?
We've been getting terrible weather here as a result of like tornadoes and hurricanes in other places. Like we're getting the residual effect. Our basement flooded, you know?
Well, I mean, we have the occasional hurricane.
We never used to. Climate change.
Yeah. Well, climate change for sure, but like our climate change right now is that we now get droughts in the summer, and then we have like huge rainfalls afterwards, and people's basements flood. Okay, that's it. That is the height of dangerous weather in Denmark.
But isn't that still dangerous? Like it's happening here very specifically in where I live. It is the most moderate weather in all of Canada, and we didn't know that. But Vancouver is famous for being wet. But we've been here for 3 years, and every summer it's been a drought. Mm-hmm. And the trees are starting. You're getting to start to see it already with the plants. But then when it does rain, there's no support, which is what's happening in Ontario.
Yes.
Like heavy rain, there's nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't have the infrastructure, and our roads flood, and it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Denmark differs. There's almost nowhere without infrastructure.
Huh. Lucky.
And no, but like
forward-thinking politicians.
People ask why Danes are so happy. Like we keep being like number 1 or 2 or 3 in like the world's happiest people studies. I'm gonna tell you why we're so happy. We're safe.
Yeah, that's important.
We're safe. That's it. Yeah. It's not happiness as in euphoria or joy. It's contentness.
Basic needs are met. Yeah.
Yeah, we're safe. That's it. That's the entire solution.
So our takeaway from this is all autistics in the world, listen to us, go to Denmark.
Yeah, move to Denmark. It's
flood Denmark.
Now that's part of my zombie survival plan and my climate change survival plan.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I mean, for zombie survival, I guess we have, like, the islands might be a thing. And we do have some decent castles, but I would probably be looking at somewhere like Wales.
Ooh, I've never been to Wales. I've seen it from a bus ride.
Wales has the largest number of castles per square mile anywhere.
Really?
And for me, when I think zombie apocalypse survival, I'm like, yeah, let's get a fortress with a moat.
That would be incredible. Okay, that's our plan. I'm joining you. Bruce, you are also invited. Let's bring all our loved ones and we'll hole up in a castle with a moat somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring all my LARP friends. They're going to bring their archery skills and their various like survival weirdness skills.
I have like stage combat skills, so I can at least pretend to fight, but hopefully I can follow through.
Well, I mean, this is more like building like leather armor or building somewhat functional weapons, or building a tent from scratch, knowing which plants are edible.
Rosa's good at that. Rosa, who was one of our guests last season, she is a forager. We'll invite Rosa. I'll be a bard. I'll like sing inspirational music.
Yeah, I don't know what my value would be in a zombie apocalypse, to be honest, because like I'm a psychologist. What do you need me for? I can't even do trauma therapy because the trauma is still happening.
I'm sure you could do something for morale and
yeah. I'm gonna be that person that everyone goes into and they're like, why is the world so fucked up? And I'm like, yeah,
it is.
Absolutely. I get you.
Sometimes all we need is to be listened
totally
to.
valid for thinking that. It's okay. I'm on your fucking side. Like,
What about you, Bruce? What's your role?
Well, he's going to be bard.
Playing music. I was. My father was a reservist, like a senior reservist. He was a wing commander when he retired in the Reserve Citizens Air Force in Australia, and I joined the reserve as a cadet. And they really wanted me to be a computer person. And so it was like, oh, okay. So when and I was thinking, for me, there was this chance that Indonesia was going to invade Australia between the 60s and the 80s. And it was there was a lot of tensions, and Indonesia's a big country. So I was more thinking what happens when Indonesia invades. And my apologies to any Indonesians. This is historical. This is not how I don't feel any negative feelings to any Indonesian people. But I thought I'm going to be in the basement on the computer, like running the computer systems and maybe doing intelligence.
Yes.
I'm really good at Wordle. And I say I have this friend who funnily enough lives in Indonesia. He's Australian, but like lives in Indonesia. He and I do Wordle and have been doing Wordle since basically it started. And it's amazing that I've said to him sort of like half jokingly, but it's quite serious, that he and I would have been great code breakers. Like, because he is a computer guy, and like, that was one of the things I do, but we're also really good with the patterns and language and the words. And it was like, oh, that's actually, it is a skill I probably, So I'll be the code breaker, assuming the zombies use code.
I'd like to dabble in that too. My great aunt Sid was in the Women's Royal Naval Service in World War II, and she got the coordinates to sink a German U-boat. Sorry, Germany. From coming up I think it was the St. Lawrence. She was posted, I think, in Nova Scotia, somewhere in the Maritimes. But I found an article where her commanding officer, or whatever you call them, said it was like Dymond who had the perfect coordinates. So maybe it runs in the blood. I think she was likely autistic as well, actually, in retrospect.
I'm pretty sure. Didn't we come across an article talking about Bletchley Park being full of autistic people? And I was like, no, I don't think that's quite true, but.
Okay, this was our longest tangent ever, and we haven't even said what we're talking about today.
Honestly, I have an idea. Let's just like have a little bit more tangent.
Okay.
And call this like an extra secret little episode.
Okay, and then we'll record part 2 later.
Yeah, and like full on tangent. Here you go.
That sounds amazing. Okay, this is
we never got started with this episode that we were trying to record, but here's what happened instead.
I'm gonna have to have a really weird cut for the intro. We'll be cut off mid-sentence. Okay.
And the topic today is, and here's a tangent.
Here's our tangent. So we've done spiders.
We never actually said what the topic was, I think.
No, so we'll just roll with this. All the randomness. Zombies.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Tell us more about your aunt finding perfect coordinates. Like, do you know what she did?
I don't have many more details than that. I can tell you a little bit about her as a person. She was quite an incredible. I mean, I knew her as an older person who was very crotchety. She was, I think, the second woman judge in Canada. or I think it was in Canada.
Wow.
And just like she was very like single-minded about things, very fair, like very committed to justice, but like in her own life, she knew what she liked, she knew what she didn't like, she could be very blunt. Yeah, she was just like a fascinating person. And when I was a teenager, I think a family member had a box of her correspondence from the war. And I found all of these letters of like men proposing to her and things like that. And to me, it was so weird because I always knew her as like a single kind of grouchy old lady, but she had a heart of gold. Like all the family stories were like the things that she, like the times that she would just like be so giving of herself to people on an individual basis, but she could also be grumpy.
You guys have such interesting families.
Oh, I have like a billion stories of. Also, my mom is pretty much a historian. She's researched a lot of the family on both sides, and so I know tons of anecdotes. Right.
On that point, I was talking to, funnily enough, my first girlfriend when I was 13. Haven't seen her for 40-something years, but we still keep in contact. And we were sharing those sort of family anecdote things. She has a cousin who did a PhD on her father's family, her name is Salem, but she told me it actually is like an anglicization of Shalom, and her family is Jewish. And so this cousin went deep into the family history and discovered they left Spain like 500 years ago and, did this. And she was telling her father, and her father said, yeah, I knew that. And it's like, oh, okay, because my aunt, my wonderful, wonderful Aunt Piri, is our family historian, and we do have a not first, second female judge in the country, but we have an interesting story as well. She was summoned to Adelaide, where our family is originally from Melbourne, when she turned, I think it was 50, because then her aunts realized she was mature enough to be told the family secrets. So how about like turning 50 and then being told you can now come to the family home and you're going to find out all these things.
Wow.
And I don't think I've ever really specifically asked Perry what those secrets were. But one of the best ones that she discovered, that she was discovering, her grandfather. Our family was very upper middle class, grocery people, very, very sort of like that stick on the road English sort of thing. We have a plot in the Melbourne Cemetery, which closed in 1927. And so she went to discover where her grandfather was buried, couldn't find it, talked to the historian and went, oh yeah, we have Mr. Petherick. Yeah. Here he is here. And he was buried with another woman. Oh, and we discovered parallel family.
Scandalous.
What?
And so, and I think this is, just got to think about this. I think this was the 30s or 40s when he died, 1930s or 40s. I can't believe I actually have to say that. And evidently he had a completely other family. Perry discovered them, rang them, and said, hi, this is Perry Petherick. Boom. And the phone got slammed down. And this is back in the day when you could slam phones down.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. So it's just like, that's our family. That was the scandal she found, this parallel family.
Wow. I have one scandal in my family. I am related to Margaret Nicholson, who tried to assassinate King George III of England, and was committed to Bedlam institution. And she's the reason that they came up with laws about criminally insane people, like why we now have like insanity defenses.
She was a suffragette. Is that's the
not a suffragette, because this is so long ago. What was it that she wanted? She acted like she was presenting a petition. This was in the early 1800s.
Yeah, you said George III. Sorry, I got that wrong.
George III. Yeah.
Yeah.
But pretty interesting. So my family is the reason for the insanity defense on my mother's side. I come from a long line of interesting women.
And
oh my God.
the National Library of Australia was created by my great uncle. First historian. Yeah. So Maya, come on, what's your family?
Yeah, come on, Maya. Dish.
You must have Viking heritage.
I have no idea.
Hmm.
I have no idea. I haven't been able to trace my lineage that far back. The only thing I know is that a couple of generations back on my mother's side, I am distantly related. Like it's like my great something's cousin something is I'm related to I.C. Jacobson, who invented Carlsberg beer.
Oh, which is, well, that's a contribution.
One of our greatest exports.
Yeah.
So I'm distantly related there, but far too distantly to have any sort of merit. But beer is my biggest family accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
Is genealogy important to you?
In Denmark?
Yeah, well, to you and in Denmark. I mean, okay, we'll use you as an example of a whole culture.
I mean, there are probably Danes that are interested in it, but it's not something we talk about that much.
That's where I was guessing. I've talked to a couple of people from Europe and just said, like, when you live the history, or when history is part of like where you are, it like learning about it is like, well, this is just my being, rather than like. Yeah. For us, both as Canadian and Canadian Australian, it's like we're still a very new country, and yeah.
I think for me, it's just personally fascinating, right? Like on my father's side, I've traced it back to a John Dymond, who was born in 1635 in Axminster, Devon, England, married someone named Jane Heward in a church called St. Mary's the Moor. And died in 1708, but I haven't been able to go further back than that John Dymond, because it's impossible to find out who their parents are. But it was really interesting going and seeing what I could learn about people. On my mother's side, there's a whole bunch of Quakers. There were women who were writing books in the 17 and 1800s, mostly on like spirituality and Quakerism. But I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, to me, I'm so fascinated by what
you have an interesting family. It's interesting. But I think in Europe there isn't that culture of like tracing your genealogy. Like, it's not interesting. We know that we're probably all related, to a bunch of different countries and blah, 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 blah. It's fine. Whatever.
I almost wonder if it's a problem of there's too much history there. Here in a country that does not have as much behind it, I'm relating it to something else that I was thinking of about the other podcast topic we were going to talk about today. But or maybe I mentioned this last time, but I stopped collecting CDs and music because it was so overwhelming. How much choice, I have very eclectic tastes. I love so many types of music. And I was like, it's going to cost me a fortune to buy all the CDs. This is when people were buying CDs, right? To buy all of the things. Sorry?
Why would that stop you?
Because it's too overwhelming and was going to make me really poor. And so my black and white thinking is like, stop collecting.
But would you be poor if you had all that music?
Oh.
No, Kara, you're talking to me. I have a room in my house that is dedicated to music and dancing.
I
Literally,
love that.
I have in my basement, there was one room that was a decent size, and I had a sports floor put in and a ballet bar and a mirror, and it's just a dancing space, and I have my CDs and a stereo. No one is allowed to bother me there.
That's amazing. And you have your place that you retreat to, Bruce. Well, maybe not so much in this house. I'm thinking about your old house.
In the old house, I had the basement. But in my previous, Meredith is not a book collector. And that is a part of her ADHD. We've worked this out, which is I'm coming to terms with that because I'm just buying books again. But
I love books.
In my previous life, we had libraries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I moved from Australia, we had... I think a container and a half was a house, and which one container was academic books, my music, and our collected book collection, and we just left it and kind of destroyed. And it's things like I had 100 books printed before 1900 on orchestration, which just got thrown away, and so have to build again. The CD's interesting. Now I think this is we're getting quite close to the topic, consuming art.
Well, then we should actually record that episode, though.
Yeah. Okay. So CDs are interesting because nobody buys them anymore.
Yeah. No. Well.
Well, now we don't need to. So my dilemma.
I hold on to mine.
I'm going to show you what I collect. Just a second.
She collects cats.
Oh, Kara.
Let me get my headphones back in.
All right, so I'm gonna make
Leo, my cat.
Position right now, and I'm gonna say we are going to wrap up this episode of Fully Tangents, and then record what we were actually going to record today, which is the episode on consuming art or experiencing art.
So this is literally like a half-hour bonus, 20-minute bonus?
Yeah. Yeah.
Patreon bonus.
Really?
Oh, I can't navigate setting those things up. This is going to be free forever. We're not going to make money on this.
Whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, that was our special bonus episode. I don't know when I'll release this, but yay! It's like, Happy New Year! Whenever we decide to release this.
Whatever this is. Whatever time this gets published.
This was a full episode of outtakes, basically.
Yeah.
We just have to add in the dancing that we usually do when we play the music that no one gets to see. All right, perfect. Bye, everyone. Be well.
Bye.
Yeah.